I never thought I'd live to see the day when my own flesh and blood would turn their back on me. But that day came, and it hurt more than anything I've ever felt. The words kept repeating in my mind as I sat there, stunned, my hand still gripping the phone as if it could somehow change the reality I had just been hit with. Nathan, my son, had just told me that I wasn't welcome at my grandson Liam's wedding. It wasn't just a small misunderstanding. It was a complete rejection. And it was final. I had always prided myself on being there for my family, on being a mother and grandmother who was supportive, loving, and above all, present. But in that moment, I felt as if all my years of dedication, all the sacrifices I had made, had been thrown away in one cruel, heartless declaration. The call had come out of nowhere. I had been at home, finishing up a cup of tea and preparing to head out to do some errands when the phone rang. I didn't even look at the caller ID. I had assumed it was just Nathan, calling to discuss something trivial maybe, about the wedding or plans for the upcoming family gatherings. But the moment I picked up, I knew something was off. Nathan's voice sounded distant, colder than usual. "Mum," he said, a tightness in his tone that immediately made me feel uneasy. "Nathan? Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to read his tone, but it was guarded. There was no warmth, no comfort in the sound of his voice. It was strange. Nathan always had a way of making me feel safe, making me feel that, no matter what happened, we were family. There was a long pause, one that seemed to stretch on forever. I could hear him shifting, breathing heavily. I could feel the tension on the other end of the line, as if he was weighing his words carefully. "Mum," he said again, this time his voice flat. "We've decided you're not invited to Liam's wedding." At first, I thought I had missed him. I felt the blood drain from my face and my mind went blank. It couldn't be true. My grandson was about to get married. Liam was my first grandchild, the one I had held in my arms when he was just a baby. The one I had watched grow into a young man ready to take the next step in his life. And now, my own son was telling me I wasn't welcome at his wedding. What? The word escaped me before I could stop it. My voice was small, shaken. "Nathan, what do you mean? Why? I don't understand." I could feel my pulse racing, my chest tightening with panic. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be the reality of the situation. I mean exactly what I said. "Mum, you're not invited to the wedding," Nathan repeated, his words punctuated with an edge of finality that cut me deeper than any argument we had ever had. "Nathan, I stammered, struggling to find words. "I'm your mother. I'm Liam's grandmother. I've been a part of his life since he was born. How can you say this?" There was a silence on the other end. Nathan's voice was quieter now, but still cold, still firm. "Mom, it's because of everything. The way you've acted over the years. You're always so critical. You can't just let us make our own decisions. You've made things harder than they need to be," he said, his voice filled with a mix of frustration and exhaustion. "It's not just about the wedding, Mom. It's about everything. And we've had enough." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. Critical. I'm critical. All I've ever done is care for you and Liam. I've always supported you. I've always been there, Nathan. I just want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of Liam's life, especially now when he's starting his own family. I could hear Nathan sigh deeply, and then there was a sense of finality in his voice. "Mom, it's too much. You've been too much. And we need space. You've caused too much tension in our lives. And honestly, we just can't do it anymore. We're setting boundaries. This is one of them." The sharpness in his words felt like a slap. "Nathan, please don't do this. This is the most important day in Liam's life. I want to be there for him. I know you do, Mom, Nathan said, his voice softening, but there was no warmth behind it. But we can't keep doing this. You've made everything about you for so long, and we can't keep trying to fix it. The words lingered in the air, hanging between us like an unbearable weight. I couldn't process what was happening. The pain, the disbelief, it was overwhelming. I tried to steady myself, but I felt like I was suffocating. I don't know what you want me to say, Nathan. I don't know how to fix this if you won't even talk to me. All I've ever wanted was to be there for you, for Liam. You're my son, and I love you, I said, my voice trembling with emotion, hoping for something, anything to make him reconsider. I know, Mom. I know you love me. But sometimes, love isn't enough. Not anymore, he replied softly, but with a coldness that sent a chill down my spine. I'm sorry that this is how it has to be. And then, before I could say anything else, before I could even process what was happening, he hung up. I sat there in the kitchen, the phone still pressed against my ear, the words ringing in my head like an echo that wouldn't stop. I had been cut out. My son had just told me I wasn't wanted at the wedding of my own grandson, and there was nothing I could do about it. I placed the phone on the table, my hands shaking, my vision blurred as tears welled up in my eyes, but I quickly wiped them away. No, I wasn't going to let myself fall apart. I had to stay strong. But how could I? How could I stay strong when the very people I loved had turned their backs on me? For the rest of the day, I moved through the house in a fog. I tried to do the things I always did: make dinner, clean, take care of small tasks, but nothing felt the same. I wasn't angry. Not at first. I was heartbroken, devastated by the realization that my son and my grandson had decided I wasn't worthy of being a part of their lives anymore. I tried calling Nathan back, but his phone went straight to voicemail. I sent him a message asking him to talk to me, to explain, but no response came. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Liam smiling at me, and it tore at my heart to know that I wouldn't be there to see him take that step into his future. The wedding, the celebration of his love, was supposed to be a time of joy and unity, but instead, it felt like a cruel reminder of just how broken my relationship with my son had become. As the days passed, the silence between us grew, and I knew that things would never be the same. I had no idea how I was going to move forward from this, or if I ever would. I didn't know if Nathan and Liam would ever understand the pain they had caused. All I could do was wait and hope that one day they would come to see the truth. That family, no matter what, should never be torn apart. The days that followed Nathan's call were some of the loneliest I had ever known. I felt as though I had lost more than just an invitation to Liam's wedding. I had lost my place in the family, my purpose. The pain of being excluded from something so significant was more than just about the wedding. It was about the relationship I had with Nathan, with Liam, about the bond that I thought would never break. I couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. The words Nathan had said kept replaying in my mind over and over. "We've decided you're not invited to Liam's wedding." They echoed in my ears like a haunting refrain, and I couldn't escape them. I tried to understand, tried to make sense of what had happened, but the more I thought about it, the more confused and hurt I became. I had always been there for Nathan, even when life had been difficult. I had never once wavered in my support for him. Yes, I was opinionated at times, but I loved him with all my heart. I had been a mother who gave everything for her family, who spent years raising him, supporting his choices, and being a constant presence in his life. So why, then, was I being cast aside as if I didn't matter? The silence between us stretched on, I called Nathan again the day after the conversation, my fingers trembling as I dialed his number. The call went straight to voicemail. I left a message, my voice shaky but trying to stay calm. "Nathan, it's Mom. Please, we need to talk. I don't understand what's happening. Why am I being excluded? I just want to be there for you and Liam. Please call me back." But days passed, and there was no response. No word from Nathan, no word from Liam. Just silence. I spent my days in a haze, going through the motions of life, but nothing felt the same. The house, which had always been filled with the sound of laughter, the occasional loud voice from the kitchen, and the hum of family life, now felt empty. The silence was suffocating. I couldn't escape it. It followed me through every room, into every corner of the house. I couldn't even stand to look at the photographs of Nathan and Liam that decorated the walls anymore. It was like everything that had once been joyful had been turned into a painful reminder of the rift that had come between us. I found myself staring at the wedding invitations that had arrived a week earlier, the ones that Nathan had probably sent out before making his decision. They were sitting on the kitchen counter, untouched. The brightly coloured envelope with Liam's name on it seemed to mock me, reminding me that I would never get to see him marry the love of his life, never get to hold him in a hug as he took that important step. I had always imagined that I would be there, sitting in the front row, tears in my eyes, watching my grandson start a new chapter of his life. But that dream had been shattered in an instant. Even when I tried to distract myself, it was impossible to escape the weight of it all. I went to the local grocery store to pick up some essentials. But when I walked through the aisles, everything seemed so ordinary, so mundane, and yet I felt like a stranger in my own life. People walked by, chatting with one another, and I felt completely invisible. My mind wandered back to Liam, to the wedding I wasn't invited to, and suddenly, the hum of the store, the sounds of other shoppers, all felt too loud, too overwhelming. I found myself breaking down in the middle of the store, hiding my face behind a bottle of detergent as tears streamed down my cheeks. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop the flood of emotions that had been building up. The pain, the confusion, the loss. It was all too much. I gathered myself as best as I could, wiping my eyes and taking slow, steadying breaths. I paid for my groceries and left the store, feeling like an outsider in a world that kept moving forward while I was stuck in the past, grieving the family I once had at night. I sat alone in the living room. The silence in the house felt unbearable, like a physical presence in the room. I kept thinking about the old days, the days when Nathan and Liam would come to me with smiles on their faces, when the three of us would sit together, laughing and talking about our lives. It seemed like another lifetime now, a memory that felt so distant, so out of reach. I tried calling Nathan once more, and again, the call went to voicemail. I left another message, pleading with him to just talk to me, to explain why this was happening. But I had begun to accept that nothing would change. He had made his decision, and now it was as if I was invisible to him. I couldn't help but wonder what had happened to the son I had raised. What had gone wrong? Where had the bond we shared gone? There had to be more to it than just me being too critical. What had pushed him to this point? I remembered the times when we used to sit and talk for hours about life, about dreams, about the future. He used to share his hopes and fears with me, and I had always tried to be there, to support him in whatever way I could. But now, it felt as though he had closed off entirely. It wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It was about the walls he had built between us, walls that I couldn't tear down. I thought about Liam, about the young boy I had watched grow up. He was still so young, so full of promise. And now, He was going to start his own life, and I wouldn't be there to witness it. I couldn't shake the thought that I was losing him too. He hadn't called or reached out, and it hurt to think that maybe he had agreed with Nathan's decision. Maybe he didn't want me there either. But deep down, I couldn't accept that. I refused to believe that Liam, my sweet grandson, would turn his back on me completely. He wasn't like that. He was kind, caring, and full of love. This wasn't about Liam choosing sides. This was about something deeper, something more complicated. As I sat in the quiet of my living room, I made a decision. I couldn't just sit here and let everything fall apart. I had to try to fix it. I had to try to repair the bond with Nathan, with Liam. I didn't know how, but I wasn't going to give up. I wasn't going to let silence and distance be the end of our story. I decided to write Nathan a letter. I wasn't sure if he would even read it, but I had to try. I had to tell him how much I loved him, how much I wanted to make things right. I wanted him to understand that I wasn't trying to control him or make his life harder. I just wanted to be there for him, for Liam. I needed him to know that my love for them both hadn't changed, and that no matter what, I was still here, hoping for a chance to rebuild what we had lost. I took a deep breath, gathered my thoughts, and began to write. Days turned into weeks, and still, there was no word from Nathan or Liam. The silence was so heavy, so suffocating, that it felt like I was being swallowed whole by it. I had written the letter, the one I had poured my heart into, but I hadn't received a single response. Each morning, I'd wake up with a tiny flicker of hope that maybe today would be the day things would change, that maybe Nathan would call, or perhaps Liam would reach out to me. But nothing ever came. The house felt quieter and emptier with each passing day. I began to withdraw even further into myself. I spent long afternoons sitting on the porch, staring out at the garden that used to bring me so much joy, but now seemed to mock me with its peacefulness. The world outside continued to turn. People went about their lives, but I was frozen. The pain was constant. A dull ache in my chest that never fully went away. My thoughts often drifted to the wedding, the day that should have been filled with joy and celebration, but now was just another reminder of the distance that had grown between me and my family. I tried to keep myself busy cleaning, cooking, organizing, but nothing helped. There was no escaping the heartache. The feeling of rejection was too much. I couldn't stop wondering what had gone wrong. I was still so confused. Why had Nathan chosen to cut me out? Why hadn't Liam even tried to call or send a message? Had I really pushed them away so much? I had begun to accept the reality of it all, that maybe I was never going to be part of their lives again. Maybe the rift was too deep to repair. But just as I was starting to make peace with that thought, the phone rang. The sound startled me. I hadn't expected anyone to call, certainly not Nathan. For a moment, I stared at the phone, hesitating. Should I answer it? Was it a telemarketer? Or maybe a friend calling to check in? But then I saw the name on the screen. Nathan. My heart skipped a beat. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself before answering. Hello? I said, my voice quieter than usual, unsure of what to expect. Mum. Nathan's voice came through, sounding weary, but not as distant as before. We need to talk. I felt a wave of emotion wash over me, relief, confusion, hope. Finally, after all this time, he was reaching out. I wanted to scream with joy, but I kept my voice calm, not wanting to make him feel pressured. I've been waiting for this call, I said softly. What's going on, Nathan? I know I haven't been the best son, he admitted. And I've been avoiding this conversation for a long time, but I think I owe it to you to finally explain myself. The words felt like a lifeline thrown to me in the middle of a storm. He was finally acknowledging the distance between us, finally willing to explain. It was a small but significant step. But still, there was so much that needed to be said. "I'm listening," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, my heart pounding in my chest. Nathan took a deep breath before speaking again. "I've been angry with you for a long time, Mom, for a lot of reasons. And I know you probably don't understand that, but it's true. You were always so involved, so opinionated, and it felt like I couldn't breathe sometimes. I don't know how to explain it, but I started to resent the way you always tried to control things. The way you would step in, even when I didn't. Ask for it. I know you were trying to help, but it felt like you didn't trust me to make my own decisions." I closed my eyes, absorbing his words. It hurt, but I knew it was the truth. I had always wanted the best for Nathan, had always wanted to be there to guide him. I had never intended to make him feel controlled, but perhaps in my desire to help, I had pushed him too hard, crossed boundaries that should have been respected. "I never meant to make you feel that way," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I only wanted to help, Nathan. I've always wanted what's best for you. I wanted to be there for you and Liam. Maybe I got it wrong, but I never meant to hurt you." Nathan was quiet for a moment, and I could hear the soft sound of him breathing on the other end of the line. "I know you didn't, Mom, but I was hurt. I was angry, and I let that anger build up for so long. I should have talked to you about it sooner, but I didn't. And when the wedding came around, when everything was about to change for Liam, I couldn't deal with it anymore. I was afraid of what would happen if you were there. I was afraid you'd make it all about you, that you'd turn it into something bigger than it was. I didn't want to fight on that day. I didn't want it to be another thing that caused tension between us." I listened to him, feeling a mix of sadness and understanding. His words hurt, but they also opened my eyes to what had been going on in his heart for years. I had been so focused on my own feelings, on my own needs, that I hadn't fully understood the impact my actions had on him. I had never considered how he might have felt, how my attempts to be close to him might have pushed him away. I had failed to see that he needed space to grow, to make his own choices. "I'm sorry, Nathan," I said, my voice trembling with the weight of my words. "I didn't see it. I was so focused on being a good mother. I didn't realize that. Sometimes, being a good mother means stepping back. I should have trusted you more. I should have given you the space you needed." There was another long pause, and when Nathan spoke again, his voice was quieter, filled with the weight of years, of unresolved pain. "I've been holding on to a lot of bitterness, Mum. I didn't realize how much it was affecting everything until recently. And I've been avoiding the truth. The truth is, I love you. And I want you to be part of my life. I want you to be part of Liam's life too. But we need to start fresh. We need to find a way to communicate, to rebuild what's been broken." I felt tears welling up in my eyes. For the first time in weeks, it felt like a weight had been lifted from my chest. It wasn't a quick fix, not by any means. But it was the beginning of something I had longed for, something that seemed impossible just days ago. "I'll do whatever it takes, Nathan," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose Liam. I don't want to lose you either, Mom," he said softly. "I think we can figure this out. But we need to take it slow, one step at a time." We talked for a little longer. Not about the wedding, not about the past, but about us, about rebuilding our relationship. When the conversation ended, I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know exactly how we would move forward, but I felt a glimmer of hope. For the first time in a long time, I felt like we were finally starting to understand each other. The next day, I received a letter from Liam. It wasn't much, just a small note, written in his familiar handwriting. It said, "Grandma, I love you. I want you at my wedding. I can't imagine it without you there. I know things have been hard, but I hope we can find a way to make it right. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the big day." Tears welled up in my eyes as I read his words. My heart swelled with love for him, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of peace. Maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. As I sat there, holding the letter close to my chest, I knew one thing for certain. There was still hope. It wasn't too late to heal the wounds, to rebuild the family I had once lost. It would take time, patience, and a lot of work, but it was a journey I was willing to take. The road ahead would be difficult, but with Nathan and Liam reaching out, I felt like I was finally beginning to find my way back to them. And that, in itself, was the most precious gift of all.